You need to focus on who are your high growth customers, not just high revenue, but who's going to be your most profitable type of customer. Because when you focus on cost to serve combined with revenue potential, now you're focusing on your sweet spot for operational success. So that's going to minimize the burden on your customer service, and it's going to help you to minimize negativity coming into your organization with complaints and so forth. It'll minimize turnover of your customers, therefore your sales and marketing budgets don't have to work as hard to make up for all the churn and negative word of mouth out there.
Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Lynn Hunsaker. Lynn is the Chief Customer Officer at ClearAction Continuum, which is a company that provides training and consulting on XM, which is experience management spanning across customer experience, employee experience, and partner experience. She has also served as an adjunct professor at University of California, Santa Cruz, where she designed and taught 25 full semester courses. Linear insights are sought after globally, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you and learning from you. So, welcome, Lynn.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, Niraj. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great, Lynn. So, I think I would want to start the conversation by with talking about XM, experience management, right? And your thoughts on why Clear Action Continuum, decided or shoots to focus on XM
Hmm.
and not customer experience, for example, or employee experience, for example, right? And why
Yeah.
is it important to look at this comprehensively for it to actually work?
Well, my definition of experience management is the combination between the three hands that you rely upon to run your business. So, those three hands are your customers who pay for salaries and budgets and investors' profit sharing, your employees who provide what customers need, and your partners who augment that in various ways. So, without your customers, your employees, or your partners, you don't have much of a business. Therefore, we should be paying a lot more attention to the insights that we collect about these three parties. And that's why I'm lumping them together as experience management. One without the other doesn't really satisfy your business growth endeavors.
Makes sense, Lynn. Love to hear your thoughts on how they intersect, right? Because I mean, of course, they're all important, but the sum is definitely more than just the parts, right? So, how do they intersect, and how do they amplify each other, and then how what are the feedback loops like there, right? I mean, how can you make sure that you do this right so that one part actually helps the other? Love to
Yeah,
hear.
very good. So I see it a little differently from a lot of my colleagues, where they'll usually say that it starts with employee experience. Good employee experience makes good customer experience. I get that, but I've seen a lot of employees having a good time at customers' expense, especially in a retail environment where they have the music or the radio station to some thing that they want, and they're laughing and carrying on, but it's not conducive to what the customer was expecting that experience to be. So I don't really buy into that. Also, I think that the brands such as Disney, Ritz Carlton, or maybe Virgin, they have the luxury of saying, we don't really focus on customer experience. We focus on employee experience, and that's why we have wonderful customer experience. That's a half truth, because they have that luxury only because they were crystal clear about what they were targeting as a group of customers and what those customers really wanted that brand to do for them.
Mm.
When you're crystal clear about your customers' priorities as your North Star for all the decisions you're making in your business at every managerial level, non customer facing groups as well as customer facing groups, that is why those brands have that luxury to focus now on employees. They didn't start with the employee needs, they started with who are we serving and what's important to them. Then they used that as the lens or the North Star for who they were hiring, how they were onboarding them, how they expect them to deliver to customers, how they expect them to interact with partners, and uh, and so on. So I see it that way. You need to focus on who are your high growth customers, not just high revenue, but who's going to be your most profitable type of customer. Because when you focus on cost to serve combined with revenue potential, now you're focusing on your sweet spot for operational success. So that's going to minimize the burden on your customer service and customer success. And it's going to help you to minimize negativity coming into your organization with complaints and so forth. It'll minimize turnover of your customers. Therefore, your sales and marketing budgets don't have to work as hard to make up for all the churn and negative word of mouth out there. So it's always best to focus, first of all, on a core
Customer.
growth group of customers, identify the two to four themes among those customers as natural segmentations, because what you need to do is make sure everyone is crystal clear that the decisions they make, the handoffs they make, the value they create needs to address those two to four themes, such as you might have a group of customers that is very risk sensitive. You might have another group of customers that's very empowerment sensitive, or whatever, simplicity, cost. When you identify the two to four overall themes for your core growth customers, then that should shape how people behave, how you design your processes, your policies, and so on. It's the most efficient way of satisfying your investors, and it leaves the minimum amount of money on the table for your investors' satisfaction as well.
Then this is incredibly insightful. I mean, this idea of starting from customer experience, optimizing for it by going after the right set of customers, and that leading to employee a great employee experience and stakeholder experience as a consequence, right? And the other very interesting idea here is that a lot of large brands can actually turn this around and start with employee experience in the narrative, because they have probably already solved the customer experience problem, right? And they have the luxury of turning this around and starting with that narrative, which a lot of other companies which are behind in their journeys, or more recent in when they started, might not have in terms of a luxury, right? So that's extremely insightful for me, Lynn. So thank you for that. Um uh, Going further, and again, customer experience, right? In the way you set the narrative here, a great employee experience is primarily a consequence of a great customer experience, right? But is that always true? Are there cases where I might be able to get better customer experience as a consequence of doing proactive work on employee experience first?
Oh, for sure. Um, so it has to go hand in hand. If you don't have the workforce that's set up for who you have selected as your core growth customers, then maybe you need to rethink who you're targeting so that it is a better fit for the behaviors and personality types that your employee base is. It all has to match, right? You can't have be something internally and then try to be something externally. The employee experience needs to have the same themes and caliber or standards as you expect your customer experience to have. The engagement that you expect your customers to give you should be less than or equal to the engagement that you expect internally. Why? Because customers already paid fair market value for what they bought from you. They don't owe you to participate in your Twitter or Facebook or event or survey. They don't owe you that. But your employees, actually, their very existence depends on customers preferring your brand. Therefore, it is a mistake to be timid to engage your employees in making a difference for customers. In fact, it's a mistake to be thinking about it as adding something more to their plate. That's just nonsense. The basic idea is you should be gleaning what you're hearing from your customers in so many ways. We are collecting almost free voice of the customer in many, many ways. And we should be much more clever about how we're analyzing that data and presenting it to each group, especially non customer facing groups who set the policies, the processes, they create the value from the get go. And then the customer facing groups, they generally deliver the value that the company has set them up to do. So we need to be not timid about engaging our employees. We just need to be thinking about how do we convey the customer message or
Mm.
the partner message, the employee message from the insights that we're analyzing so that it actually fits in with how safety does their job, how legal does their job, how finance does their job, how HR does their job. When we use their language and rhythms in the way that we're sharing insights, now they can see that those insights are just a tweak on what they're already doing. They should do it slightly differently to minimize waste, to minimize throwing problems over the wall to customer service, to maximize value, to overcome all of these things with shrinkflation and inflation that are just a spiraling of reduced value. So I think that makes a big difference when you kind of turn it around that way.
Makes sense, and then there's so many interesting ideas here. So just as an attempt to simplify it, for the audience, right? So let's say I run a company, and I have a clear feeling and some data to support uh, my observation that my employee experience and customer experience is not at the right place. They need to improve, right? Uh, could you chalk out a quick roadmap for me in the next 3-4 minutes as to exactly how I need to be looking at this problem? A very high level roadmap that gives me a framework to think about this.
Yeah. Well, I think that journey maps can be useful, but I think it's taking us too long and narrowing our vision and our attention too much when we're relying on journey maps as our starting point. I found that it's very useful to interview customers less often, but a little more broadly, especially gleaning all of their comments. So invest in data mining and things like this that helps you to see patterns. When you present patterns to managers, it stimulates them. When
Mm.
you present data, it just informs them. We need managers to be stimulated. We need managers across the entire company to be looking at customer insights and employee insights and saying, my heavens, that can't stand. We've got to do something about that, or that's a great opportunity that we can't pass up. And we have to get people out of the kind of numb, desensitized mode of, okay, I hope that there's nothing I have to do when I see the survey results. That's bogus. Your competitors are continually changing. You have all kinds of forces on customers economically and socially and so forth that's continually changing. The whole idea that you have a safe pass
Mm.
whenever you're looking at insights is just it doesn't it's not growth promoting, it's not helping you. So how you would start is you need to just look at what are the patterns of what customers are saying. Don't be focused too much on the ratings and the scores, but mostly what are they saying? I think that the best use of a promoter score, effort score, health score, or what have you for an index is not some kind of performance criteria or progress measure. That's great to an extent, but that's limited. What the real value is, use it for correlation analysis. Find the key drivers of loyalty
Mm.
and focus your teams and non-customer facing and customer facing groups on the key drivers uh, that they impact. Now, how we did this, we showed them their key drivers. We did a correlation analysis for the cut of data for legal, the cut of data for account A and account B and account C, and so on, right? Every single group had their own cut of the customer insight data. And we focused them on the top two key drivers. What we did from there is we took the customer comments by themes. You know, you can bucket the sentiment into a word cloud or whatever. What are your top word cloud uh, percentages? Put that into a Pareto chart. So now you have bar charts that shows the 80-20 rule.
Mm,
When you focus on the 80-20 rule and put your focus on stopping recurrence of the top 80% issues,
mm,
now you're going to be generating huge ROI for the company and huge ROI for your customers. You're going to make a huge difference that they will continually reward you for, and you'll have also those savings perpetually in the future. That's what I call customer experience annuities. So we focus them on the 80-20 issues, and we allowed 45 minutes for teams, cross-functional groups in the workshops for every single group in the company to read the customer comments and then say, why are we allowing these symptoms that our customers are talking about? Why are we allowing that? And why are we allowing that? And on the wall chart, they wrote down the 5 levels. Why are we allowing that? The 5th level is the root cause. Now we created an action plan, single page, that shows a metric in the right hand corner. How are you going to track the progress of your action plan? That metric in the right hand corner was what went into people's bonus. We
mm,
also used it for recognition and so forth. Because when you're tracking what they're doing about it at the root cause level, you have almost a guarantee that customers are going to experience something much better in the near future than they did in the past. When you focus them on the key driver and the 80-20 rule, you're addressing the things they care about the most, or the things that are causing what they care about the most.
mm,
So the rewards are just so much more large
mm,
and so much more widespread and ongoing than
mm,
what we've been seeing in the past 10 years
mm.
in customer experience or employee experience. Very limited approaches compared to what I'm describing here.
I think I get the sense, right? I mean, the key idea here is to use, I mean, the metrics that are generally used as measurements or indices to actually do correlation analysis, right? And figure out, cause and effect of exactly what leads to those metrics being where they are. Break
Yeah,
this down by departments, functions, teams. Find out the most impactful actions that they can be taken and align everyone to take those actions, right? I think, is this a good summary, Lynn? Does this make sense?
absolutely. So when I was leading CX over the 11 years that I was at Applied Materials in Santa Clara, California, we had more than 50 of these workshops
Hmm.
each year before the strategic planning process. And this means that each of them had 2 action plans. So more than 100 customer experience improvement plans simultaneously.
Wow.
Show me a company today that's doing that. And why? Why not? Everyone can focus on 2 things. It wasn't something new on their plate. It was just doing something a little bit differently, changing their process to be more proactive, changing their policy to be, more preventive, right? Fine tuning the coordination and their handoffs to be more coordinated. It's not doing something extra, it's doing something differently. And when you present the CX work that way or EX work, well, you're bound to make massive changes. And that's what we did. It was even a very busy time, high growth mode for our industry. And yet we saved our customers huge amounts of time and money.
I mean, one follow-up question there, right? I mean, of course, there are some teams for whom, right? I mean, CX or customer service or customer experience is a core part of the responsibility, right? But when you try to, align legal, for example, to do it, right? I mean, you'd face resistance, right? I mean, they would say this is not our job. Of course, which does not make any sense. But this is a very valid and popular, resistance that you might get. Right? You might get this from so many other departments, right? So how do you do this? How do you make sure that you
Yeah.
align towards this?
So, is it everyone's job to have a fiscal responsibility with budget and with the people that report to them? I think so. We've all bought in that even though performance reviews is an HR thing, you have to do it because it doesn't make sense for HR to do that.
Yeah.
Okay? You're in any department in the company, it's like a body, a human body. You get a paper cut on your little finger, you stub your little toe, it's still going to affect the rest of your body if it's going to, distract your attention. All of the departments in a company is like that, part of a team, a whole. And so everyone needs to do their part to be fiscally responsible, to be managerially responsible to people, also to be responsible to investors.
Yeah.
Whenever you're throwing hurdles into customers' path by your policies, your processes, your decisions, your handoffs that are out of tune with what customers will reward you for or penalize you for, you're costing investors precious earnings per share.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
legal, get on board with making earnings per share higher for our investors.
Makes sense. Put it clean. And also a very good way point for us to get into another topic that I have seen you talk about frequently, which is the idea of silos, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and I think this connects to what you're just saying very very well. So would love for you to talk about that and how that
Yeah.
is so important in a context where you need to get acceptable.
Well, everyone complains about silos. In fact, if you listen long enough to people complaining about anything, it all boils down to a silo. Like organizationally, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. Data systems, processes, and so on. So there's 5 organizational silo or operational silos and 5 executional silos. The operational ones are what we always think about: channel silos, organizational silos, process silos, system silos, and data silos. That's 5. The 5 execution silos are assumptions, vision, goals, metrics, and handoffs. That's where it all starts. When people have varying assumptions, well, then it's very hard for them to have a common vision.
Mm,
And without that, it's very hard for them to have goals that actually synergize their efforts rather than compete and stab one another in the foot. So it becomes a huge mess in all the data systems, channels, and all so forth. So it's best to address the execution silos first: assumptions, vision, goals, metrics, and handoffs as the one of the keys or a huge progress toward solving the operational silos. So I've identified 4 universal keys to solving all 10.
mm,
And the first one is broadening people's perspectives.
mm,
People need to see their job not as, hey, I'm here in legal because legal is important and every company has legal. And, if they let go of the legal department, well, that would just be against the law or, ridiculous. No, you're there to serve customers or whoever serves customers. Peter Drucker said that, right?
mm,
Every job is there to serve customers or to serve whoever serves customers. Otherwise, why are customers paying for your job? Why do you exist? Why don't we just let you go, right? So if you're not creating value that helps the whole company to be preferred by customers, well, then it's like dubious why you exist. So, broadening people's perspectives, you do by showing them customer comments, customer stories, things that illustrate not just through a journey map, but through so many things that are more immediate why you have to work together, right?
mm,
Second key is supercharging people's motivations, right? So, what's in it for them? Show them how the customer comments and the customer stories apply to the safety department, the procurement department, the HR department, the IT department, and so on. When you translate customer stories and insights to each job, then people start to see what's in it for them to make the change, why they should pay attention, why they should be caring and making significant changes that improve customers' experience. So you want to modify your recognition programs and compensation programs as part of that motivation to represent more prevention and lifetime value mindset and collaboration coordination, right? More teamwork. So we did away with most of the individual heroics. We had something small for that type of individual recognition, like a $5 token you could use at the cafeteria. But for the rest of our recognition, it was team based.
Mm.
And we, year by year, migrated the thinking to more prevention rather than, saving the day.
Mm.
The third key for silo smoothing is to uh, make things more universal. Whenever you're starting a project or giving an assignment, expect to look at who else needs this information, who has done something like this before. What can we learn from that? Who can we share information with so that we're learning together? That is de-siloizing the work itself, right?
Absolutely.
When you're just moving forward with blinders on like a horse in a parade and not knowing anything that's going around with you, you're creating yet more silos. So, this is universal keys to silo smoothing. I think
So
that if your CX council is tasked with silo smoothing, you would see a tremendous improvement in people's morale.
absolutely. Lynn, just one last follow-up question on this, right? So who owns it, right? I mean, of course, this is
Mm.
extremely important, everyone's responsibility, but who is the person driving this, or who should be the person driving this?
Yeah, so everyone has a responsibility for performance reviews and for budgeting and things like this. Same thing with customer experience, the third leg of the three legged stool. However, who should ringlead it? Who should
Absolutely.
be in charge of making sure that people know these things? People are moving forward with them. You have to have a small CX team at the headquarters level, reporting into the CEO ideally, and being viewed, positioned as allies to every single other senior leadership team member. They're there to make those people more successful, have less waste, more value for employees, for partners, and for customers continually. And when you position it that way,
Mm.
well, you're really creating an exponential value for that small team that is just coordinating, facilitating, keeping things rolling, keeping the communication going. All these ways to educate people what's happening with customers, what are their priorities, how close we are to being gap free in our brand integrity, what we promised and what they actually get. Well, it's much more growth promoting than having 2,000 people in your CX team.
Absolutely. Lynn, that was extremely insightful. I learned a lot, and I think that's going to hold true for the audience too. So thank you for your time, Lynn. And it was a great experience talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Looking forward to next time.